Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nilesh Adalgi and you're watching Techie Programmer. So today in this video we are going to discuss about the functions in Python. So let's get started. Let me just move on to my Python, and here we're going to learn about functions. So let me just open up my functions file. Okay, so this is the list that we are going to understand today. So first of all, let me just start. I will just uploading this link to this file in the description, so make sure that you check out that link. And then here we are going to start with the function, and function is a block of code which only runs when it is called. So make sure you understand this statement because we will see this here. So first we are going to learn how to create a function in Python. So creating a function is something like you just need to write a keyword called def, which stands for definition, then your function name. For example, if I want to name my function as hello, just an example, and which prints hello. Let me just make this as a string. Okay, so what I did here is I have created a function called hello, which prints when I call this function, it prints hello, this particular stuff like text. Okay, so this is how the function is created. First is the keyword def, then the name of the function, then the parenthesis, that is simple parenthesis, then a colon, and then your statements here after an indentation. So let me just copy this code here because we will be using this again and again. So as I said, this is a function. Now I need to call a function in order to see an output. For example, if I just run this, it do not produce any result, even though I have said it as print something, but it doesn't like do anything. So I need to call that function. So what I'll do is I will just remove this because already the function has been defined. So I will just call the function that is hello. So I will call the calling is function is something like this. You just take the name of the function, that is hello, and then you call it with a parenthesis. So let me now run this. So here you can see I get an output called hello because here I have created a function, and in this section I have called the function. So this is a creating a function and this is a calling a function. So then next, if I understood this, how this we create and call the function, let us move on to arguments, because we will be not just using a function, we will be passing some parameters there. So let me just show you. If I want to print something like, let me just create a new function which says, which has a like name is complete name is name, and then if I say I just take the input as first name, then a colon, and then if I want to print name is, and then a comma along with the first name, that is F capital. Make sure it is case sensitive. So what I will do here is, now let me just call this function. So here I have passed an additional parameter, that is first name. So I need to pass this when I'm calling a function. For example, let me just show you. If I say name equals TECHIE, so I will just pass it like this, and let me just run this. So here you can see it says name is Techie. So it makes sense, like whatever you pass here is like referred to as the first name, and in the place of first name it is replaced, and then whenever I call this function it just print however the way I call it. So let me just give you an example. Name, and just let me pass Nilesh. So if I run this here you can see the name is Nilesh, the name is Techie. So you can just call it with any, like you can call it multiple times. So this is how the arguments work in the function. So later there is a confusion between the parameters and arguments. So the parameter is a variable listed inside the parenthesis in a function definition. So this is a parameter. Whatever this first underscore name, this is a parameter, and an argument is this whatever we pass in a function. So this is a parameter and this is argument. So whenever we pass an argument to a function, and while defining we make sure we have created the parameters for that particular argument. So this is how it works. So most of the people get confused between what is parameter and arguments because they are kind of similar, but this is how they differ. Like, but whenever or during the definition, whatever we add, this is a parameter, and whenever we pass something, that is your argument. So next, coming to number of arguments, you can pass any number of argument. Let me create a new function called full name, and then which takes the FIRST first name and last name. Okay, then a colon, and let me just print it as first name comma last name. So first name comma L is capital, last name. So now what I will do is let me just call this function, because without calling the function doesn't work. So in order to call the function, what I will type is full name. Then I need to pass two parameters. Now here you can see there is one is first name and another is a last name. Both are string, so I will just pass it as string. So let me just pass it as Nilesh comma JDLGI. Okay, this is a string. Let me just run. So here you can see I have called this function using this full name. Then I have passed two parameters because it takes two parameters here, and then you can see the output here. So this is how we can pass any number of parameters here. So next we are going to go with arbitrary arguments, that is args. Let me just quickly paste down an example for you. So here I have a list, and this is an example for arbitrary arguments, that is star args. So what happens here is, what I'm doing here, if there are multiple parameters that I'm going to take inside, if I'm not sure how many parameters I'm going to take, so what I'll do is here I'll just take it as define my function star, which stands for any number of, and then the name of the parameter, that is your kids. So then what I'll do is during the call of the function, that is my function, then calling this function, I will just pass whatever the name of the children is. Then I will ask to print the youngest child is kids. So this is kind of a list, so wherein this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, so it will print the 0th, I mean like the second index, that is Linus. So it prints the youngest child is Linus. Let me just run this. Here you can see the youngest child is Linus. So this is how we can pass, like if you're not sure how many number of parameters you're going to pass, so you can just use this method. So we call it as arbitrary arguments. So then let's move on to keyword arguments. Again, I will just copy paste the code here. So now here you can see there is a function, def my function, where I'm taking three arguments, that is child 3, child 2, child 1, and then printing the youngest child is child 3. So what we are going to do here is, as I said here, the word name as keyword arguments. So I said this is a keyword whenever I set like this. For example, here you can see the first parameter is child 3, then second parameter is child 2, then child 1. But if I pass it as Emil, Turbus and Linus, then what happens is this Emil goes to child 3, Turbus goes to child 2, and then this Linus goes to child 1. But I can just write it in any pattern or style. That is, here you can see a child 1 I have defined initially, then child 2 I have defined here, then child 3 I have defined here. So I can do that with respect to a keyword argument. So using this I can define this. So this method is called as keyword argument method, so or style, what we can call that. And I'm just going to call this function. So like if you can just guess the output for this, I said this is going to be a child 3, so child 3 here, so child 3 is Linus again. So let me just run. So the youngest child is Linus. So I hope you get this point. So after understanding the keyword arguments, let me move on to arbitrary arguments. So let me just copy paste the example. So here we have an example for arbitrary keyword arguments. So coming to an arbitrary keyword argument, so here you can see this is a function wherein we have double star kid. This is kind of stands for a key value pair type of combination. So here we have a first name along with the name, and here we have a last name along with the last name. So what I can do here is I can access the keywords, that is f name, using kid, then parenthesis, just aware that the way we learned in order to access the data in the dictionary. So some sort of similar kind of act takes place here. So no need to worry about much about these complex thing if you are not yet familiar with above ones, or if you are just started with the Python. But if you already know few stuff about functions, and if you are really interested, just make sure this is just kind of a dictionary wherein this is a key value pair, and we can access that using this key like this. Like it just combines it as a dictionary, and we access that. Like if I want to access this, then I will write it as kid, then the L name, so I will get the output as this, or return character as this, returns us this. Okay, so once done with that, let me just tell you an example for default parameter value. Default parameter value is the case wherein we set a default value. Whenever we do not have a value, then we just keep it as default. So let me just grab an example for you. So here I have an example for you for default parameter value. So here you can see initially this is a function, then country is set to Norway. So I am from Norway, so just an example. So what happens is whenever I say my function dot Sweden, then it, like, country value that equals to it is Norway as a default will be taken as Sweden, and then we get a printed as I am from Sweden. Then when I say my function India, then it says I am from India. When I just call my function normally, then what happens is whenever I do not pass any value for my country, then this particular, like, whatever value I define here, that is called as default value or default parameter value, that will be assigned to this variable, and then it just prints here. So this is how it works. So this is how a default parameter value works. So even if I go with this here, what happens here is my function, when I call with respect to Brazil, it says country is Norway initially, then it is updated to Brazil, then it says I am from Brazil. So this is how this works. So now let us go to the next, that is passing a list of an argument. So what I can do is, if I want to like have a list called L is equals to 1 2 3. So, and if I want to say define num, okay, and if I say pass L, and if I say go down and print L of 0. So let me just run this. Let me just call the function first. NUMB, and then we'll just pass my L. So here you can see it just prints 1 because at the 0th of L is 1 0 1 2. So what happens here is this is a list, so I was able to pass a complete list into my function. So this is called as passing a list as an argument. So because I am passing a list as an argument to my function, so this is how passing a list as an argument in the function works. And here now I can access any of the values. Let me just run this here again. It should print 3 because at the second index it's 3 0 1 2, so 2 is 3. So that's it. Something, I hope that you get this point. So let us move on to return. Return is something like, after certain, like whenever I call this function, it does some functionality and then returns a value. For example, if I want to say I want to add a 2 number, and I only to define a function for addition. So let me say, if I say a is equals to let me just directly do that. Let me just define a function called add. What it does is go for a comma b are the parameters, and then what it does is return a plus b. So what it does is it takes the input a and b, then adds them, and then whatever the result is, it just returns up from this. So how I will show you how you can or get the output for this. So now what I'll do is print and say let me just call my function called add, and I need to pass two parameters, that is two arguments, that is a and b. So I will just pass 2 comma 4, that should return me 6 because addition operation of 2 and 4 is 6. Let me just print this here. So here you can see I get 6 as an output. So this is how a return value works. So next, moving on, pass statement. As we had discussed it for while loop, for loop, the pass statement is kind just for if you are not sure about what to write in your statement and still you want to run for in order to check your rest of the code, then what you can do is define something like let me just say if I was developing an application for addition, and if I just type an add, then I forget what is the functionality to be written in the add parameter, like add function. I will do is pass so that I shouldn't get any error. So this is how we add a pass para statement in a function. So what we have done today is creating a function, calling a function, defining, passing an argument, like what is argument and difference between a parameter or an argument, and passing a number of arguments, how we can pass a number of arguments here. And then I have an arbitrary argument that is using this star rotation, and then keyword arguments, so keyword like this key value pair, and how to pass a multiple values of keyword arguments. So this is how it works. Then default, how the default works, that is whenever I do not pass any variable here, argument here, it just takes the default value for whatever we assign here. And then moving on to passing a list of arguments. So here this is the way we passed our list here. You can just see here I passed L here as a parameter, and here you can see this, and I have accessed the the third object from the list. Then returning value is in order to get output from the function, get the return value so that I can use that. Then this is the pass statement, how we can do a pass statement here. If you have made up to the end, make sure you like, share and subscribe. That's it for today, and see you in the next video.